Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. Today's video, we're going to start the installation of the bearings in my Arctic Cat 650H1 front differential. If you guys have been following this series, we had some issues with the differential carrier, and there's a couple things that may delay us in this project is the needle nose bearings for the pinion and getting that pinion nut back in. Anyways, let's get started on installing the bearings. First ones we're going to start with are the hardest ones, and that's getting the needle nose pinion bearing in and the nose cone right there. Use some red Loctite to lock it in place, and then we're going to assemble the pinion and hopefully get that in there, and then this is going to be the last headache, and if we can get that in there, then we're home free for installing the rest of the bearings. Having the bearings outside, and I'm going to use this to tap it down, hopefully, and seat it. So I got it in place. It's seated at the bottom, and you got to beat it like it owes you money. Next step is the installation of the pinion and the pinion bearings. So the way I'm going to tackle this is I'm not going to push it through on here. I'm just going to push the collar and the bearing. Oops. Down on the shaft, and then readjust that bearing spreader. So now we reverse that bearing splitter so the collar sits up top, and now we're going to push the shaft through. Yeah, since everything's new, it's just gonna go on nicely. My cylinder's losing power. Oops. And I bottomed out now. Okay, now I put some grease on the shaft there. I got some grease on the bearing, and also that pinion's got some grease. Hopefully make that installation go in a little bit smoother. Okay, I'm going to use a brass hammer. So we got her in, there's lots of thread showing. So far so good. Don't follow my advice here because I heavily modified this in order to make my housing work, because I screwed up some of the threads on the housing, so I had to make a poor man's tap. Because once you get this locked in place, these little side tabs here, as you can see right here, you're supposed to knock it flat in the oil gallery right here, prevent this from coming out, but we're going to use the red Loctite on that. I don't want to get too crazy. That's probably good enough. No promises. That was a relief. We got that nut in. I also locked it because this thing's never coming apart again, and still spins nice and freely. So I got the next bearing that we're gonna do, and that one there is gonna be the closest thing that's gonna hide or hang on the outside edge. It's tight, but it's gonna be able to press down and inside. Putting those bearings outside made a huge difference. You just see it's just dropping in. There we go. A little bit of hydraulic pressure now. Not quite. I had to add another spacer. I think I'm in now. So I'm seated, so we can go ahead and install the snap ring. We got 2 more bearings to install. Let's put this one in. So if you're pressing this one, you gotta be careful because it's got that little line up tit. So I just put it in the space there. Keep that in mind. Let's press this bearing in. Being frozen makes it so much easier, and we're bottomed out. Sometimes you need to get creative on this last bearing here. The one inside the housing. Gonna use that tool I made. Throw in a couple spacers. Line this up as best as I can. Yeah, I highly recommend putting in bearings when they're cold. They're a little bit smaller. There, we bottomed out. And once they thaw out, they will expand and lock themselves in place. There we are, all the bearings are in. Everything's ready for reassembly. Here's a good look at the kit I used to remove and install the bearings. Links for similar kits will be in the description. Things went together a lot smoothly than I thought. I thought once we installed that pinion bearing and then tried to get the pinion in, that I would have ran into some serious troubles because of the thread issues with that nut, but we got her in, we Loctited it. This thing is not coming apart again. If it blows up, that's it. We're gonna replace it or maybe just scrap the quad and get something a little bit newer. Anyways, I'm gonna end the video here. Stay tuned to the next series where we do the final assembly and we stick it back inside the ATV. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments, post them below. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for watching.